If you asked me like 10 years ago or even 5, I'd be like, next question. Some of my friends don't know these things. All those silly questions that like kids ask. So what does your mom do? Where is she, like, what's this and what's her name and how old is she and how old is your dad and this and that. And I'm like, it's pretty weird. I was like believing and I didn't want to, misbehave.
Yeah.
So for years and years, I felt like I couldn't do any of that. I knew that I really wanted to do this since I was a kid, since I was 11 at least. I just didn't know how. And everyone around me like made it so hard for me to even imagine. I would like to resonate with whoever feels like they don't belong. And I feel like it's very hard to feel like you belong. We want to be accepted. We want to feel like we belong somewhere. But, what does it even mean? Like, I accept you, you accept me, just be.
My guest today, Milena, is a singer and songwriter who is already making waves in the music scene right here in London. Something that I have had the pleasure of seeing live twice already. She joins me on the show today to explain just how and why she ended up moving from Italy, where she was born, to my hometown of London, well recognized by many as being the heart of the global music industry, thanks to its diverse overlapping cultures and rich history. In this conversation, Milena really opens up about the conflicts that she faced in her early years. And while she felt more Italian, the combination with her mixed Serbian roots meant that she often felt like she didn't fit in or belong anywhere. She describes herself as being free-spirited, and through this episode, you'll see what urged her to break free and, as she describes it, become rootless on her journey to encourage others to be brave and use their voices in the same way that she is doing now. Her music has taken inspiration from the likes of Adele, Dua Lipa and Celine Dion, as well as some Italian and Serbian artists. But her early experiences in childhood explain just why she has such empowering, yet heartfelt and personal lyrics. And this conversation really brings to light just why she is dedicated to become an inspiration to all those people who can relate to her in feeling held back in their own creative passion. Whether it's because of a lack of belief in turning their skill into something greater or because of the cultural construct of the environment that they were raised in. There is so much that you can take away from this episode. So I hope you enjoy. Milena, so
Yes.
your Italian background is something that's probably more evident for a lot of people, but actually your family history stems back with Italian and Serbian roots. Before we dive into where, your own journey in early life, which has been documented as somewhere where you've looked to music as a way of exploring your free-spirited mindset, take me back through what you know of your family history and the roots and where that began from your previous generations.
Well, I can tell you like what I know from like how my parents met to start. So my mom's from Serbia and she came to Italy when she was about, I think, 25. Because one of her friends came to Italy and she was like, oh, come with me. It's a cool country. We can do this. We can do that. So she followed her and she started working as, I think, like a housekeeper or something like that in a sort of a rich family for an old lady. And that's how she met my dad. Because my dad is quite much older than her. So they have like, I think 28 years apart, something like that. So yeah, basically she was working for this aunt of his who was very, very old and he was about 50 something. And that's how they met. And what was the question again? What did you want to know before that? What I know from like...
One thing that I understand about that movement of Serbians was actually Italy was the fourth highest in terms of the immigration of Serbians. So do you know when your mum made that move, was that something that was commonly happening at that time?
It was. Yeah, it was because, like I said, her friend did the same thing, and like I know that she was watching Italian TV back in Serbia, so I'm sure it was a thing. And also, her name is like Violetta, so it's like without a T, like in Italian it would be Violetta, like double T, but it's like I think it's Italian, but
Yeah.
just like made Serbian, like without a T. It's weird.
Do you know whether it was a completely free choice for her to do that, or was it as a result of, I know there are a few things around like the Yugoslavian wars and that
Yeah.
caused this
For sure. It was around that time, and I'm sure there was like she couldn't see probably a future for herself. And not that like my family was like directly impacted much, but I think it was still like a really tough time. It was during the 90s, and you could feel the war everywhere pretty much. I still remember, I haven't been to Serbia in a while, but like 10 years ago, and I'm sure it's still the same. Like when you cross the border from Croatia to Serbia, there's like a street that is completely like the buildings are still completely like destroyed. They haven't done any work to make them look better until now, and that's like the signs of the war that are still present.
Yeah. And also, the sort of, there's this term called brain drain, which a lot of places experience. I had a guest called Cham Cham, who's from Cameroon, and brain drain was a big thing there, where any of the talented labor would leave because the situation wasn't so good. So then you find that the home country just doesn't get to develop as much because that's another thing, that it's not just the lower skilled labor that leave, it's the higher and the lower across the board, so it really affects it. But
for sure. I mean, Serbia is not even in the European
Union,
exactly. And it probably never will be. Who knows what will happen with the European Union anyway. And it still feels like you're going back in time when you go there.
Really?
Like, especially like, well, my grandparents, they lived in like this city called Sombor, but like not in the city center, a little bit like further away, still not far. And like I remember like in their street, like it's not paved all the way. Like they built houses, but the street hasn't been paved all the way. And you can still, I think up to date, you can still see horses like cross the street and like sell watermelons in the streets and stuff like that. And people playing, like kids, I remember playing in the streets with kids until sunset. And everyone like just was free to like, I don't know, go in the streets and like play with the kids or like animals or like, it's a different world.
One other thing that resulted from that sort of mass movement of Serbians, especially in Italy and I'm sure in other countries, was there was a lot of like anti-Slavic racism and tension that came about. Was that anything that you saw your parents or even you experience in any degree while you're growing up?
No, I don't think so, to be honest. Maybe I just didn't see it, or maybe I'm lucky, or no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not much, no.
Which is good. And so what were the differences between having one side of the family from Italy, and you mentioned your sort of the grandparents' life and what that was like in Serbia? Did you notice stark differences in either the way they were, the way their daily traditions were? How was that, seeing both worlds?
For sure, like I'm saying, like I used to go to Serbia like every summer, and I would spend like a whole month or maybe even more at some point there. And at first it's quite shocking. Like, my life as a kid when I was in Italy, I would like go to school and then, watch TV, and then maybe when it was like sunny, go to the park and meet with the kids and play with them for a couple of hours and go back home. But then when I was there, I would be like at home with my grandparents, and I would be out all the time. I could never be inside. I would either be playing with chickens or pigs or like dogs and cats. I loved cats and I still do. Or with the kids, and like there was no way for my parents to like keep me inside. And also, there was a lot of like cultural differences as well. Like, well, the food is different, and like some levels of, I would say, even hygiene. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's different. And like the house looked different. It was a, you know, we had a garden and we grew vegetables. So I had this swing. How do you call it? The swing chair, like the
The
thing,
hammocks.
the hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had that outside, and I didn't have these things in Italy. I didn't really have a garden. Like, I mean, I did have a sort of a garage and like a paved place where me and my brother would play football, but it wasn't the same thing. I
Mm.
wasn't as close to nature and to people, even, I guess. Um, and yeah, well, my father never really learned how to speak Serbian properly. So I can still remember how hard it was for like him to communicate with my grandparents and vice versa. Like it wasn't just a cultural difference, it was like a language barrier as well. But language means culture as well. So it was
Mm.
a lot of differences in mentality, I would say. And I remember him bringing it up sometimes with my mom,
Yeah.
being like, "Oh, you're Serbian, like you don't understand." I don't know. My mom was messy. She was very messy, and my dad was like super like a clean freak. Like, he would get mad if like the house wasn't like in order and stuff. So he would claim it was a cultural difference,
Mm.
which could be, to be fair.
How was it for you with that, managing those two identities? Was there one of the sides that drew more towards? Did you feel any clash between the two?
I definitely feel more Italian, and I definitely feel like I am closer to my dad and I look more like him and like I think like him more. Um, Whereas my brother, he's like closer with my mom and like they're like kind of one thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Was it a case that when you're in Italy, you lived like an Italian and that you identify as an Italian, and when you went to Serbia, that was your time to connect with your Serbian side, but then you came back and you were back in your Italian
yeah,
way, or did you find a way where you could be both and appreciate both?
I did appreciate both for sure. But whenever I went back to Serbia, it would take me a couple of days or a week to kind of like not feel the distance with the other kids. And I would always feel different. Like, oh my God, I remember like when the other kids like got to know that like we were coming, they were like, oh, they're coming from Italy. Hey, they're coming. And we were like, oh, the Italians are coming. So we were viewed as the Italians, I guess.
Yeah.
um and yeah, it like I struggled at first to like speak with the kids and connect with them, but then I guess they also like that difference, like it was kind of, we were kind of special. So I feel like an Italian with some Serbian in me.
Yeah. Were there any other struggles,
When I was there,
or just during those early years of childhood?
um not culturally, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, not really. I mean, it was a bit weird because, like, I grew up in the north of Italy and my dad's from the south and my mom's Serbian. So I never really felt like, I guess I didn't see it as a kid, but
Mm.
like the kids that I was playing with, they like came from like maybe a northern Italian family, but a lot of them were from other countries like Albania, Romania, and mostly. So I don't know. I guess I was friends with everyone as a kid.
Did you find any connection with someone who did have a slightly different or a slightly more diverse background where they weren't just fully Italian? Yeah, did you find that there was something that drew you guys together by having this, commonality and a difference maybe?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's funny you ask because I actually, my best friend to date it's this girl who's also got an Italian dad and a Serbian mom, and I
Mm.
met her in Udine, my hometown, when we were 7. I remember it was like that. My classmate was a Romanian girl. Her sister was like 1 year below her, And she told her that there was this other like Italian Serbian girl. And so she kind of introduced each other. And she became my best friend because, well, I guess we share a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's funny, yeah.
Another thing that's documented about you is that you grew up in quite a religious family environment. And even through your music, which we will get onto, there was this desire in you for, this free-spirited mindset, or, as somewhere it's written that you had this urge to break free and become rootless, which grew in your early life. Where did that influence, or what was the spark for the beginning of that bit of your journey?
Well, I guess in a way, I feel like maybe I never felt like I really belonged somewhere. And I'm not sure why. Like, sometimes, like, even if I look back, I feel like a lot of like my friends would be part of like a group of friends. And I never, if I look back, I feel like I also always had like kind of like individual friends. And I never really felt good in a group type of environment. I don't know why. I feel like that's part of me not feeling like I belong anywhere. And whether that comes from me growing up in Udine but being born in Avellino but having a Serbian mom, so when I'm in Udine I can't connect. Well, I do connect with people over there because that's, I think, the closest that I've got to like people that like grew up in the same environment. But like when I go to Avellino, I can't really connect with the culture there because I haven't spent enough time. I don't speak the dialect. I can understand a few bits here and there. When I go to Serbia, I don't connect fully. I struggle to speak lately. And when I'm here, like, I mean, it's even more weird, but I love it being here. And what was the question again?
No, it's just, I mean, it perfectly leads on to what you were saying. What you were saying perfectly leads on to something that it reminded me of a guest that I had called Saba Shanushi in the previous season. And she grew up in London, but she had an Iranian background. And kind of exactly how you say, because she couldn't really connect with that side of it, growing up in a place, her story was a bit different. She grew up in a place where she didn't have any of that influence of that heritage around her. Everyone was mainly originally from London and English. So there were times where she almost felt so disconnected that she felt ashamed of that identity to say that was her background.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel... Do you ever remember having any of those feelings?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, when like other kids like ask me, oh, so like, where'd you come from, this and that. I mean, I don't know why. I guess I wasn't like 100% proud that my mom was Serbian. Doesn't make any sense if you think about it, because like, it's just like countries are just like borders like created from who knows when and where. And it was a mixture of that and my dad being super old. So when he was like picking me up from school, I'd be like, yeah, he's my granddad. Or like I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to lie. But people would be like, oh, so say hi to your granddad. And yeah, hi. Sure. How old is your dad? All those silly questions that like kids ask. So what does your mom do? Where is she? Like, what's this and what's her name? And how old is she? And how old is your dad? And this and that. And I'd be like, oh. It's pretty weird. I didn't want to be weird. But then again, yeah, I guess I was ashamed and I wasn't really sharing much of that. So that's on one side. And then on the other side, what made me even feel like worse, I guess, was the religion bit, because it was pretty weird. Like when my mom met my dad, she got in touch with like some Jehovah's Witnesses, right? They knocked at this old lady's door and she opened, and she was like in a new country, open to new things, always been kind of like religious or like into like, I would say a little bit maybe close-minded, or maybe needed like a nest or something to lean on, a community. She always needed a sense of community. I feel like she still does, and everyone does, because everyone has I needed to belong somewhere, or to know what's the truth, and like what's gonna happen next, and what hope do we have. So she really connected with that. And then she met my dad at this lady's funeral, actually. Rest in peace. Yeah. And she started talking to him about this hope of like resurrection. And my dad was very Catholic at the time, very, like rigid and all that. But he was also in a point of his life where like he was like, a little bit disillusioned. Is that a word? Yeah. So he wasn't really like in a happy place either. So he took all this hope, and like they got together, they got married, and then they studied, and then they went, like they became like part of the religion, right? So when I was born, they were baptized, and I was going to all these functions 3 times a week, and all my friends, these kids and like their families, they were all from the same religion. And yes, I did like go to school, so I did have friends that were not in the same religion. But when I was going to school, I was like 3, and my mates were having birthdays, and I would just sit there and not sing happy birthday, not eat a cake, not say a word. The teachers were like, oh my god, like, well, poor kid, like go eat something, go like, have fun. And I was like very rigid myself. I was like believing, and I didn't want to, misbehave. So for years and years, I felt like I couldn't do any of that. Never had a birthday, a party, Christmas and all that. And then you're a kid, so you kind of like believe in what your parents believe. And I was like, I was a tough kid. I would be telling my mates about our beliefs as well, So yes, I guess that was like a bit shameful for me, because like, when kids look at you, oh, poor kid, oh, but like, are you happy? And I was like, yeah, I am happy. I guess I'm happy. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, these aren't questions you really go through at this
you know
time.
what I mean? But then, so for years and years, I feel like growing up, I was ashamed, to the point that even now that I'm talking about, I feel like, okay, maybe am I saying too much? I don't know. Because, especially when you go to kind of those 13 teen years, and, your friends start having their boyfriends, and you can't, and like, you can't go out to parties, you can't do anything, and you're like, okay, sure, this is right, I'm doing what's right. But then you grow up and you don't feel like this is right. You feel like, what is this? Like, why are we so close-minded? Like, what's the worst gonna happen? Am I gonna die forever? And like, God is gonna hate me, and like, it's so hard. So when I was 16, I kind of like broke through a bit more. I did stupid things, I guess, to kind of like, my parents will never know. And like, it was, tough in a way.
But do you see now how that's influenced your music and your songwriting? Are there any specific themes or elements from either your Italian or Serbian culture, or both, that have really triggered what you stand for through what you try and put out there?
I guess so. I don't know. Like, I never really like think deeply, like, why am I writing this? Why am I writing that? But definitely, like, even like some melodies, or like some lyrics, or like, some themes, and like, this feeling of like not belonging, and like wanting to break through, and like wanting to like break the rules, but not just to break the rules, just because life makes no sense whatsoever. So who are we? Like, what's defining us? Like, who says that I can't, I don't know, who says that I'm Italian, who says that I'm Serbian, who's like, what is this? Like, it's a bit weird.
Let's dive into that music journey. So firstly, where did that strong influence for you to pursue, not just a passion, but a career in this space come from? And was there, any big challenges or hurdles in getting you to where you are, even to this point today?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my family wasn't like particularly musical, But my mom kind of like pushed both me and my brother to like, you know, have some musical knowledge. Like when my brother was a kid, he started playing piano. I was very interested as well. And yeah, so she always like encouraged both of us. And I know that like I've always loved to sing. I don't know why. I was very creative. I like to dance and I like to sing, but I'm not really a good dancer, I guess. And yeah,
Do you
just
dance in your music videos?
well, good question. I kind of am for the next one. But I'm not a dancer, full disclaimer. But the dancers in the music video are really, really good. Um, so yeah. So I did like start to like take lessons. We started playing cello. You know how moms are. They'd be like, "Oh, you and your brother can do this together." So we decided to like play cello together. It was kind of like a communal decision, or piano later on when I was like 11. Because when you're a kid, you don't really know like what instrument. Like it's very rare, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I got made to play the piano, and even every activity under the sun. I think that's also another thing that you, from certain backgrounds of parenthood, and yours sounds really similar. It's all about maximizing, I guess, the availability for your kid to do everything. So
Together.
yeah,
Yeah, of
and that
course.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
So
And the money.
exactly.
Yeah, make the best of yeah, of your time and effort to bring your kids to do the same thing, even whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is true. So yeah, I started playing the piano and I remember my mom was like, "Hey, there's this new singing course at the guitar school your brother goes to. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, I literally said to her, "Mom, I know how to sing." I was 11. I didn't have a clue. And so I got to the first lesson and I was like, wow, what is this world like? What is breathing and this and that? Oh, wow. And I never wanted to stop from there. Like, then I had to drag my mom and be like, hey, I want to continue. Please, let's keep going. I know it's expensive. So we were like kind of like compromising, like, okay, I'll do 45 minutes twice a month, but I will share my lesson with a friend, like to make it like more feasible, I guess.
Feasible.
Yeah. And then well, the thing is, for my family, for my mom, it was more like, okay, you have a passion, let's like, you know, nurture your passion. But it's a passion. You've got to go to school, you've got to go to uni, you've got to get a job, or you've got to, you know, serve God, you know. So kind of like every passion outside the religion would have been too much.
Yeah.
So when I really wanted to do I knew that I really wanted to do this since I was a kid, since I was 11 at least. I just didn't know how. And everyone around me like made it so hard for me to even imagine that it was possible. So I always went to school. I had good grades throughout the whole, you know, high school and all that. And I ended up even going to uni. But when I finished high school, so when I kind of finished like what was compulsory and more, because I was 18, I was like, I want to do music. I always kept like singing and I want to be a singer-songwriter. I just didn't have the means to do it. And I said, Mom, I want to go to London. I want to do this. And she was like, there's no way you're going to do it. We don't have the money. Fair enough. And it's not a career. It's not a career. Like, you need to get a degree. You need to get a job. To the point where I did get my degree. I'm not going to do anything with my degree, probably. I don't regret doing it. But I finished it. And I was like, I still want to do this. So I came here for a master's. And still my family was like, where are you going? What are you doing? It was COVID as well. Like, you're going to get a loan, or you're going to like, you know, get yourself into the deep water and like, you know, you're going to have to repay that. And, you know, like music is not a career. It's not safe. We don't have the money. So don't do it. Don't risk everything. And I'm like, here because I want to risk everything, you know. If you don't risk, like, then what's it there to gain?
And how was it getting your parents to come onto your side and support you in the move to London?
Well, they didn't have a say at that point. I was 21. And, I was an adult and I already proved to them that I was, sustaining myself. I did my degree and I started working on the side and I went abroad with some scholarships. I went to the Netherlands, so I lived like outside of Italy. I lived by myself for 3 years at that point, and so they kind of didn't have a say. If I was doing it on my own, fine, it was my choice. And so yeah, I guess they're kind of proud now. I hope.
The financial aspect was the major driver. If we look back to, it sounds like you took a similar path to your mother in terms of roughly the age at which you left. It seems like you came to London roughly the same time that she would have left Serbia. Do you think that played a factor in her being maybe a bit more reluctant to see you leave? Or do you think, if anything, that made her a bit more comfortable?
That's a really good question, because yeah, I feel like parents always like seem to know what's best for you. But then again, if you think about it, she left her family, to go to a different country to seek some financial security or something. And I feel like that's the reason why most people move. I moved from Italy because I felt like in Italy there wasn't a market for me. There wasn't like a school for what I wanted to do. There wasn't like, I don't know, the right people. I don't know, even like the singing teachers that I encountered, they kind of like blocked me as well. Like they made me sing in Italian and in the dialect from my region. And I was like, this is not like, I genuinely like, I was 10 and I was singing in English because I felt like English was the language that I wanted to sing in because it resonates with more people. And even though I didn't know the language much or at all, I still wanted to do it. And so yeah, I guess it's true actually. Yeah, she did leave Serbia when she was like 20 something, and I did live Italy when I was 20 something, and who knows if I'll stay, if she'll stay, who knows.
So you came to London and then you studied at
BIMM
BIMM.
BIMM University.
Was that always, the one plan that you had in mind, and this is what you knew you had to do?
Well, it was, to be fair, I feel like it was kind of like an excuse as well. It was very hard to like say, hey, I'm gonna go to London and make music. Okay, but who are you doing it with? Like, how are you doing it? Like, are you gonna just buy a guitar and play in the streets, or like how are you gonna make it happen? And I guess university is like the most like acceptable thing you can do. You either like go abroad with a job because you get a job offer, or to study, I guess. So, and definitely like London is like the coolest place to do it. It's got a lot to offer, but I don't feel like, I mean, yeah, it was just cool for me to know that I could go into higher, studies, but studying what I liked, so music. So it was kind of like an excuse to like make peace with myself and my mates, because they go to uni, so I go to uni.
Yeah.
But you don't need it. You do need it, but at the end, like, you finish your degree and then like it's not like you get a degree in architecture. There you go, you're an architect now. So yay, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
But anyone could be a musician if they want to, right?
I think even when it comes to, there's a definite benefit to go down the route you did, but also for even if it's temporary, that temporary safety net for your parents to think, okay, my child has gone there with a plan.
Yeah.
With a plan that, like you say, what are you going to do when you get there? Well, you've got this, degree that you're pursuing. But even, one thing I always refer to often when it comes to where people position themselves to help their, passion. And it's a book called The Unfair Advantage, where it talks about the Miles framework. And one of them is education, but there's also location, which is the L. And just by putting yourself in a certain environment, you are more likely to surround yourselves with the people that you need to be surrounded by that can
Yeah.
help, right? So if you look at, why does Silicon Valley exist? Because there's a concentration of these sharp minds and, the CEOs and developers, and that helps to make Silicon Valley what it is. So in this case, by putting yourself in such an esteemed establishment, from what I understand, that's where you met your producer.
Yeah, that's where I met everybody. My producer, my guitarist, this other guy that I'm playing with, Anatol. Hi, Anatol. Yeah, and this guy that I write with, and yeah, my flatmates. It's where I made my first friends and colleagues, friends for life. I feel like I'm always gonna say this. Like when I moved to London and I went to BIMM and I met these people, I feel it was the first time I felt like I belonged, which is crazy because it took me 21 years. Yeah, and I hope we're gonna stay friends forever.
I hope they're listening.
Yeah.
So your first single was Summer Storm.
It was.
Which is it's a big summer hit, which is,
yeah.
I'm not even one to say like this is a summer banger, but that's one way that we would describe it here. So there'll be a link to that in the description. After that, there's a song that really stood out to me, and for me gives me more of a sense of your journey now that I've heard more about it. So I'll Be Gone.
Oh yeah.
Which I do really like, and you kind of detail the nature of an unfair relationship in some element. The overarching theme is that it strives on you taking a stride towards independence, based on claiming, as you say in the song, that you've had enough. Which the beauty of it is that it doesn't just have to lean on a romantic relationship. It's really up to the person to take away what they take from it. But I think through your story, there's many elements to what you could mean by it. What really do you see from your own background or the journey that you've been on so far that inspired you for that to be the song for you to release next?
Yeah, I remember when I wrote this song because I was just arrived in London and I had this very happy melody in my head, and I was like, I don't know, I felt free for the first time. I was like, hey, by the way, I'm gone now. What are you gonna do about it? And yes, like you're saying, the song like kind of makes you feel like you're living like a toxic relationship, which I'm sure many people can relate to. And I hope this song can like help them realize that, hey, you can leave whenever you want. If like this is not right for you, just go. Just leave, bye. Like, you don't need that in your life. You don't need any of that. So yeah, what inspired me was like, leaving behind all this like toxic background of like, people who were like, you're not gonna do anything, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna what, are you gonna go out and release a song? Yeah, I released a song and it's called I'll Be Gone, Goodbye. Like, especially like this is to one of my singing teachers back in Italy, the one who made me sing in the dialect from my region. Like, she was very toxic for me, I feel. So yeah, she inspired this song. Hello. And yeah, it's very cool to kind of say to your singing teacher who's not pushing you forward, hey, I released a song.
So she did inspire you indirectly, maybe not in the way that she intended.
Yeah.
But no, the message is strong. And do you think are there any specific artists or musicians from your Italian or Serbian heritage that have influenced your style, which should lead me to first ask, what is your style? But let's go off both of them. So has there been anything from that heritage that's influenced your style, and what style are you trying to portray through your music?
Sure. Well, my music is very pop, is commercial pop, is like anything that's like, I want my songs to be catchy and memorable and that can deliver a strong message. Like, I would not release a song that doesn't have a strong message in a way. Who knows, maybe in the future, but not now. I feel like I have a lot to say. But there is one artist especially called Elisa. She's very popular in Italy. She's from my region. She's from Monfalcone, but she went to the US to release her first albums. So her first albums were in English, but then she became, I feel like she never really broke through the like international scene that much, but she's extremely popular in Italy for the albums that she released after. So definitely her. And well, I do listen to a lot of things. So I do listen to, well, not a big fan, but I do listen to Balkan music. It's fun. It's always fun. Or like canzone napoletana from, so yeah, for sure. Like I feel like even indirectly I've got that in me because I was listening to these songs for ages, and I don't even know like sometimes where my melodies come from.
It's an interesting point that you make about some of these indirect influences, because I think it doesn't just have to be a performing artist career, but in anything, sometimes when you step back and you think, oh, hang on, maybe this certain taste or this certain tradition or something that I used to do or was surrounded by in my youth probably has contributed to why I position myself in a certain way. Your own cultural capital, as it's called, which is your tastes, your hobbies, your style, your looks, your accent. These things they can play a strong factor in your hand for when you have a certain message that you're trying to give out. So when you create your audience, that's a big factor of what draws people to you, which is your cultural capital and how you use it.
Because yeah, I mean, I'll never have like a British accent. I'll never get rid of my Italian accent, and I can't change the tract of my face. I don't want to do it, and like, yeah. So yeah, and like, who am I gonna resonate with? Who knows? Like, I guess I would like to resonate with whoever feels like they don't belong, and I feel like it's very hard to feel like you belong. We strive so much to like we're looking for acceptance anywhere. Like we want to be accepted, we want to feel like we belong somewhere, but what does it even mean? Like, I accept you accept me, just be it, you know what I mean?
That is, yeah, it's powerful. And there was a question I was going to ask, which was, even though you're still quite early on in your own career, what advice would you give to other young musicians who may be growing up in a place where they're either, like you say, maybe ashamed or struggling to find their identity or where they fit in with either their own culture or the society that they're surrounded by?
Just do it. Like, you have nothing to prove to anyone. Like, you are special because you are you don't have to fit in. You don't have to. You're everyone's unique. You've got your own light to shine, and like, you don't have to convince anyone. You have to convince yourself. You've only got yourself to convince. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. So just do it, no matter how hard it is, because it is hard. But just if you believe you can do it, and that's the first thing, believe that you can, then do it, because you've already come like halfway through. Yeah.
It's a powerful message. And, for people who are listening to this and haven't heard your music, what's really nice is that there is a diverse range, to start with Summer Storm, and that has a certain message, and then I'll Be Gone, which we've spoken about. But I think, through what I've heard of yours, I've seen you live, and I'll be seeing you live again, which I look forward to. But
Me too.
there's a lot in your lyrics that cover these points that you're trying to say, which is really powerful. So it reminds me of, I was thinking of this book called Everybody Writes by Anne Handley, I believe. And it's more focused on inspiring people who want to write, or, making sure they stay on the right track. And one of the messages that she says is that often writers end up becoming too speedy to throw out content because they've gathered a fan base where they need to deliver quantity, and they do it at the sacrifice of quality, right? Because it's, okay, I've got this blog going, I do it weekly, and I need to make sure I get something out. And then, my fan base is growing, maybe I should throw out more content. So often what gets sacrificed is the previous objective that they had in order to get the content out. But I think that can easily relate to music as well. So
for sure, yeah.
On that, she covers 3 points, which is utility, inspiration, and empathy, right?
Yeah.
Inspiration is obvious. What inspiration do you want people to get out of your music? Utility is how do you want to help them, and empathy is, do you listen to or how do you make sure that you listen to your listeners? What is
Did I listen to my ear?
or the music? What
Yeah.
yeah. Do you think you've found your utility in terms of how you want to help your listeners?
I think so, because I like to say this, that like when people ask me who's your ideal listener, well, my ideal listener is myself when I was young, because yeah, when I was young I was listening to these artists and like I was crying to the song or dancing or screaming, and like they made me feel stuff, and I've always wanted to be the one who made other people feel what I feel, because sometimes I feel like I feel too much or I feel nothing, and which is a song that I'm writing, by the way. So yeah, I feel like I have found my utility. Like I want to speak the truth in a way. I want to help. Well, help is a big word. But I want to like just deliver this message that life is beautiful. You can do whatever you want, and you know your struggle, like everyone's struggling, like your struggle is important, and your whatever your beliefs are, they matter, you matter, and you can do whatever you want, and
No, it's amazing.
you're strong, and
It's amazing, and I think from knowing you from before, it's a genuine message that you're not just showing in your singing, but who you are as a person. You bring that across, and obviously, it's very important. I guess you'd want to be the same off camera,
Yeah.
off mic as you are on mic.
Oh yeah.
And so, what's
it's also like why I kept my name. People ask me, "Oh, what's your artist name?" No, my name. It's my name because I want to be myself. And I was thinking about it. Well, my name is pretty weird because I've got Milena, which is like kind of Slavic. Is it Polish? They ask me. Is it Portuguese? Is it, it could be from anywhere. And then there's Galasso, which is like, well, clearly Italian. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know if it's a cool name. It's just a name, but it's my name and it's unique, like it's yours.
Yeah. And that's enough. And so what's next?
Next, I've got a lot.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. This is just the beginning. So I released the 2 songs, Summer Storm and I'll Be Gone. And they were like kind of like a trial. I've never released a song before. And these are the very first songs that I wrote and co-wrote and produced, like worked with a producer. Next up is Singing Through the Pain, which will be coming up on the 16th of June. I'm super excited about this one. It's also a strong one. It's not a sad song, even though the title might seem song. It's a quite uplifting one. And yeah, I did this music video in an abandoned house. Well, it's not abandoned, really. And I am dancing in it with some dancers through the flames and this and that. I'm super excited. So that's the next song. But then I've got an EP of 4 songs coming out as well. Very excited about that one as well. I feel like it's got strong songs, especially this song called. And well, I was writing just today, and I have more songs after that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna place them as singles or like albums. I guess I'm trying to speed up the process as well because it's very time consuming, especially when you don't have the finances just yet. But another thing that I wanted to say is that, like, for example, today I was writing and I didn't feel very inspired. Like, I started writing a song and it was a cool song. It had cool melody, cool chords. But then I was like, I don't know, it's not giving, what it's supposed to be given. And then I went back through my notes and I found another note and I was like, oh, I forgot about this one. I started writing a song completely opposite, and that was giving a different message. So yeah, I'm still writing and I'm still living, and I try to like live more to get more inspired. So yeah, hopefully there will be lots coming up.
No, I look forward to it. And to that point of, ensuring quality remains not at the sacrifice of quantity, how are you making sure that you stay on your objective?
Well, I listen to a lot of music. I try to read. I try to go out and just notice things and talk to people. The more I talk to people, the more things I learn and realize, and the more conversations I have, the more like actually I really want to talk and, you know, get their messages across sometimes. And then, yeah, well, I want to learn how to produce. That's what's next as well. It's very daunting, but, you know, everything's daunting. You just gotta spend your time on doing it. And so, yeah, I feel like I am trying to improve myself. I practice every day. I'm doing this course to be a certified vocal coach on the side. So I do that as well. And I teach as well. And teaching also gives me some, you know, the more I teach, the more I learn. It's crazy.
Yeah. So already giving back to the next budding singers.
Yeah.
I like that. That's amazing. And yeah, is there anything else that you wanted us to touch on that we haven't?
Like we've talked a lot. Like you brought up some stuff from my past.
No, I love it.
From the future.
Yeah.
And it was a great talk.
Yeah, it's been more than I expected having this conversation with you. I just think I just love the honesty and opening up about some areas which, you know, some people might not be so comfortable or might not want to talk about.
Well, if you ask me like 10 years ago or even 5, I'd be like, next question. Some of my friends don't know these things and they don't have to, you know.
Unless they hear this episode.
Oops, too late.
But no, I appreciate that a lot. And, you know, we have a closing tradition. For every guest, there's 2 questions that have been put forward by a previous guest.
Ooh.
Then I select them at random.
Does it mean I get to ask questions?
Exactly.
Revenge.
Yeah. So the first question is, what book or film, or it can be TV show?
Okay, so 1 book and 1 TV show.
Just one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah. So it can. Okay. So yeah. So what book or film, or it can be a TV show, do you think has inspired you the most in your life journey so far?
Well, last year I read this book, and I still haven't found a book that's better than this, and it's The Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
From Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
It's just great. Like, it's the journey, you know. That's my journey, is your journey, is everyone's journey. Like, how, I'm not gonna give a spoiler, you just have to read it. I'm telling all my friends to read it because like it's life changing. It just makes you realize that like whatever it is that you want to do and you need to do, like the universe knows it, so why hide it? Like, just go for it and do it, because if you really, really, really want something, it's yours.
It's an amazing book because it's not throwing a morale, or it's not throwing a message in your face. It's a lot of people interpret it in different ways, and people get their own message from it.
For sure, yeah.
And the second question,
it's a story at the end of the day,
yeah.
There's a narrative, but
the final question: what is an unusual or uncommon view or opinion that you think you have that many other people don't?
I believe in parallel universe.
Okay.
I believe in the power of infinity. I watched this documentary recently, by the way, that you should watch. It's amazing. It's called A Trip to Infinity. It's on Netflix. It's got 9 chapters. It's amazing. And it's maths, it's science. It proves that parallel universe are a thing. Believe it or not, you can believe it. You cannot believe it. Doesn't matter. It's just my view, and your view is your own view at the end of the day. So I do believe that like we're not like that special, that like we like, I believe like in the infinite possibility of things. So that's why I believe that you can do whatever you want, that if you really want something, you can do it because the universe is telling you to do it. And that if you're not doing it here in this universe right now, a different part of you is doing it somewhere else in another universe, you know? So I believe that everything's possible in that way. And at the same time, it makes me think how like infinitely like small I am, and how it doesn't matter what I do, because whatever I do or say or like no matter how many people it reaches, it doesn't matter, because we're so small in this infinite universe that it doesn't matter, which is also makes me feel, it could scare some people. It could be like, oh, but well, that life doesn't matter. Well, it matters because it's your life. And at the end of the day, it's your choice, and you've got to be happy and to do what you like, and nothing else matters. So if making music makes you happy, do it. If you have one monthly listener, fine. If you have 1 million, fine. It doesn't make a difference. It might make a little bit of revenue, but it doesn't, even revenue doesn't make a difference, does it?
That's powerful, because you hear versions or like offshoots of that through different things. Like, you know, there's the book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, right?
Oh, yeah,
and that's
got that.
Right, and it's talking about these similar ideas, but, you know, boiled down to one key message. But I think what you're saying is that is the broader expanse of why we shouldn't, I guess, waste as much time being bogged down about
what are other people gonna think. Am I gonna make it? It doesn't matter. You're making it if you make it. If you do it, you're making it. So that's why I feel like zero and like infinite is one same thing. It collides. You know, it's mathematical. Watch the documentary.
Powerful. But without pitching the Netflix show too much, let's your song will be coming out on
June 16th.
June 16th, which is very soon. So I look forward to pre-save. Yeah, I'll put the pre-save link in the bio, and then, you know, definitely go out and listen to it. I'll be listening to it, and hopefully people will be reaching out to you on Instagram.
Yes, absolutely. That's my preferred social media.
Okay, and that will also be in the bio. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great
today. And like I said, I've been to your gig. I'll be going to your next one. But, you know, more than that, just everything that you've shared today, it's really got me to really understand your music even more through your life journey and even through your, you know, previous generation. So it's super powerful, and I hope we do this again in a few years once you are flying through the roof.
That'd be cool.
Thanks again.
Thank you.